Hey, fans of the Monday Movie Club. This week, in an effort to keep us current, I chose Godzilla Minus One, which was released last year and is number 4,365 on the Franken list.
It should be
Hi,
higher.
Frank Gaffney. What?
It should be higher.
Steve Martin? I don't get it.
You won't.
Okay, good. And then we have Garthra. I guess that's your version of Mothra.
Mothra.
That's cute.
Annie King, not trying to be clever. Back in the bedroom. And Goldfuck and Cringer, who Cringer is doing what right now?
I think he wants to go swimming.
I think he wants to take over Tokyo. All right, here's the plot. Japan has barely recovered from World War II when a gigantic peril emerges off the coast of Tokyo. Kiyoshi, a deserter traumatized by his first confrontation with Godzilla, sees this as an opportunity to redeem his conduct during the war because he was a kamikaze pilot and he didn't kill himself. Now, here's where I think we have the problem. Not the black and white discussion. We can have that later at the end. But Netflix automatically plays the dubbed version.
Yep.
And we started watching it. And all I could think was, run, Frank, it's Godzilla.
Yes.
But then we switched to, so Lori and Matt came over and watched the movie together. And then we switched to the Japanese version, and it was much better.
Yeah.
I'm
sorry, just one thing to say about that. I just pressed play on Netflix, and mine was automatically subtitled, not dubbed.
Well, funny.
Yeah.
Mine went right to the English dub.
No, I had to manually change it.
That's weird. So Annie and I saw one thing, you guys saw another thing. That's okay.
Well, I switched it once it got too annoying. I mean, of course, traditionally a Japanese movie does go like that with the music and the words and the lips don't match, but it was just too annoying, distracting. So, and Anthony is in Austin, Texas, so he wasn't here, so he wouldn't watch this movie anyway. All right, so everybody watched the Japanese subtitle version, yeah?
Heck yeah, man.
Okay, good. I found it a little slow moving to get going. How does Godzilla regenerate when he gets his face blown off?
He got Wolverine's healing factor, just like Deadpool did.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. And was I the only one thinking they're going to need a bigger boat?
Yeah.
And why did the girl, I don't know her name, just push how do you say his name? Kyochi?
Sure.
Kyochi out of the way instead of just going with him.
Yeah,
right?
Because it was badly written.
Yeah.
Because then you didn't have her, being thought dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you knew she wasn't dead. Come on. And I totally cracked up when he said to the little kid, "Why are you so sad?" And the kid was like, "Oh my God, that's my cue." Like it was like she forgot to be sad, and then he told her, "Why are you sad?"
Hold on. That girl's like 2 years old. It's hard.
I know, but it cracked me up.
She was looking off scene like I was comparing her, and I'm not saying this to be mean, like a dog. If you're a dog, like if there's a dog in a movie, she was looking off screen at somebody who was like giving her the cues. You could see that.
Sure.
But that makes sense. It makes sense. What are you
She had a really ugly cry. Her face was like, it reminded me of What's His Nuts.
Hey, so do
Ray
I.
Liotta laughing.
Who?
But it cracked me up because it was almost like he was like, "You're supposed to be sad now." All right. So many contrivances, good Lord. Anyway, it made $56 million in the US, not too shabby. Third highest grossing non-English language film in the US. Number 2 is Life is Beautiful. Number 1, which we watched.
Crouching Tiger.
Crouching Tiger, yeah.
Life is Beautiful is only like 500,000 ahead of it, but Crouching Tiger is like 60 million ahead of it. It was nominated for 3 Oscars. I don't know. Winning for visual effects. That's what I wrote. So is it called -1 because it's a prequel to the original Godzilla?
It does work as something of a prequel to the original 50s version.
That's not
Oh,
what the
see,
trivia said, though.
No, but it does work.
I took it as a scoreboard, and he lost, so it was like, people won and Godzilla 0 or whatever.
That was
Minus
the
1.
National Lampoon version of Jaws. It was going to be Jaws 3, People 0.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's funny. No, what somebody wrote in the trivia was at the end of World War II, Japan was back to 0 because they lost.
Yes,
And now losing Godzilla, now they're -1
yes, that was
in their scoreboard.
there were two translations of what the title meant. That was one of them, and the other is that it could be a prequel to the original movie. So
Oh,
that's what the director actually said that. So
Well, I mean, it's not quite a prequel because I'm not a Godzilla fan.
obviously, you don't know anything about Steve Martin.
I certainly didn't watch it, and I watched it in the 4:30 movie when it was on for sure. And Raymond Burr's in it, obviously, right?
Yeah, playing
So
Steve
Raymond
Martin.
Burr, Steve Martin. Yeah. Um, and so I really don't know the mythology of it all. So, and I don't have that nostalgic allegiance to Godzilla. All right, so 3 stars for me, actually. Godzilla -1 presents a unique twist on the classic monster movie genre, offering a fresh perspective on the iconic Godzilla character. Definitely the special effects were pretty amazing. And the cinematography was beautiful, and classic, him tromping everything as he's walking. I'm like, why can't he just look down and avoid the buildings? But I guess it's hard to look down when your head is so small. Your body's so
Remember,
big.
his eyes are kind of, on the top
Up
of his
there,
eyes.
too.
He has to really,
Well, plus he's there to destroy. He wants to destroy the buildings. In my
So,
head.
but yeah, and those moments of destruction just really added to the menace, the true scale of his power. But for me, it failed a little bit in the pacing of the movie because it really struggles to maintain momentum when Godzilla is not around, and there's some long stretches where it feels a little slow and disconnected. And the characters are interesting, but not everybody was so fully formed. So there was, for me, that lagged a little bit. And the decision to sideline Godzilla so much, I'm sure, pissed off fans of Godzilla.
Have you ever seen a Godzilla movie before, Frank?
I like I said, I very long time ago, and is Godzilla not in a lot of the Godzilla movies?
So as we're watching this movie and it's ending, Duncan says to me, he's like, "Wow, Godzilla was actually in the movie this time."
So he's a lot like Bruce.
Yeah.
So I guess it could have disappointed people who were looking for a more traditional monster movie experience. Mark, there's no picture.
Oh boy.
He had to take his glasses off.
Oh boy. Here we
I have a lot of
There
notes
we
here.
go. Mark Kent, Superman.
I just wasn't a fan of this. I like, just like you said, Frank. I like Godzilla flicks on weekends growing up, but it was never my thing. Like comic books were my thing. Godzilla was not. And after hearing how good this was, I was expecting more. It was too overly dramatic with bad acting to me and slow at parts, as you said. He didn't have his distinctive roar, which I missed. His crazy bug eyes. Those eyes were when they had some. When he was chasing when he was swimming actively after those boats, all you could see was like It was kind of crazy. And he just looked like a dude in a suit walking around, stomping things like he. And I guess it's a throwback, but I was expecting something a little bit better after the. And I hate to say it, but the American versions, I've seen some of that, and it was CGI'd. At least it looked different, whatever. When it showed him stomping around, you could see the little stubby arms, and it was like, I don't know. Wasn't a fan. And after last week, I kept waiting for the samurai to show up, and we didn't even get a ninja. We just got a giant T-Rex. It was just very disappointing. And how did this win an Oscar for visual effects? I felt it was just I did not enjoy them. I thought it was rudimentary. I don't know what you want to call it. I did enjoy his scales popping up and his getting lit up with the power before he blasted. But even that wasn't it supposed to be like either lightning or fire? It was never like he was like shooting at atom bombs. It was kind of different, right?
No, that's how it was, right? He definitely. I mean, it was black and white, so he didn't light up blue, but he had the right.
When he shot out and killed the girlfriend who what didn't really die, it was like that was like a fallout. That was like an Autobomb going off and just everything. That was not how Godzilla used to shoot out whatever he shot out, his lightning or whatever. I don't know.
He always
And
had the fire breath, right, Joel?
Yeah, it
yeah,
was always a nuclear powered breath.
Yeah.
The reason you're seeing the fallout is because they could do those special effects now.
now. Okay, okay. And this is minor, but why didn't the main guy use government resources to find the mechanic? He's running around scribbling on paper and stuff, and he's working for the government to save the world. Like, call the general and say, "Hey, use your resources to find this mechanic guy. I know his name. We could find him."
Yeah, but okay, so even the general said that even though they are part of the government and have had government jobs, they were not trying to be part of the government. They were trying to keep it low key and off the books
What
because
does Loki have to do with this?
I was gonna
Nah.
say.
Where's Nick? All right, fine. I must have fallen asleep at that part. Again, like you said, Frank, too, the healing factor, his like healing of everything that's new, right, Joel?
yeah, the healing factor is essentially new
Okay.
in that sense.
And how the fuck can he stand in 2,000 feet of water? He's standing in
Didn't you
the
see,
Yeah.
ocean. He
didn't you see
weighs like
the memes?
3,000 pounds.
Didn't you see the memes on Facebook?
No,
His legs can extend.
And
Yeah.
apparently.
yeah,
And how can
I
he fall
thought
to the
that too. I'm
bottom?
like, how are they going to drown him if he's standing on the water?
Yeah.
It's obviously not very. It's
I
kind of
kept thinking, I guess they're in shallow water for the first half of the movie. Then I was like, no, he's in the middle of the ocean. And he's still standing, just randomly.
But he's not actually standing. He's using his tail.
I thought that too, but no, that doesn't work. He's too heavy. For me, it's 2 stars. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen, and I get it. If you're a Godzilla fan, maybe this was fun. It just was. This one was work for me.
Ames, did you? Are you a fan of Godzilla? Had you seen Godzilla movies?
Not until last night at 10 o'clock when I put the original on because I looked online. I said, okay, let me watch another one since I've never seen. Let me see what, because there's so fucking many of them. And according to Variety or somebody, it listed like all 35 Godzilla movies. And this was number 2 as the best. And number 1 was the original. So the original is on Max, but you shouldn't start a movie at 10 o'clock. So I need to go back to it. So that was yesterday was my very first experience with Godzilla. He reminded me so much of Jurassic Park, and I thought the effects were great. He looked beautiful. He looked like a beautiful T-Rex. The spikes on his back, it was beautiful to me. And I thought how far we've come from Jurassic Park. Even though they looked great, it's now so commonplace to do such beautiful effects. Mark, you made me think of things, but now I can't think of them. I did find it slow. I was so excited to see this movie. Frank mentioned it like 3 weeks ago in a text, and I was like screaming. I was so excited. Back in February, I was dying to see it, and I learned it wasn't coming to streaming until June, and then I kind of forgot. So I went in with way too much expectation, especially because of the reviews it got from critics and from people. And one of the cute trivia things I read that I do believe happened was the director somebody noted that it for the longest time had 100 on Rotten Tomatoes. And finally, now it's at 98 mark with both people and critics. And finally, when somebody gave it a bad review, the director tweeted, finally, LOL. I thought that was cute.
Let me go on and make it a 97. Hold on a second.
So, but it was a lot slower than I expected it to be, and the acting was so over the top. And Frank, when there were scenes I saw, there was one specific scene I saw. Frank, oh my God, it's Godzilla. In the original movie last night, I screamed. It was so funny. So, I mean, I enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. I'm also going to give it 3 stars, and I'll try to remember something else I wanted to say.
Try to remember.
I'll jump in on Mark or I'm on Joel or Andy.
No,
Please.
you could jump in anytime.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and
So
also, Mark, I read that again. I assume this is true. You said you missed the Godzilla growl, but they took the growl from the original movie and like enhanced it and used it. So
Maybe
But
I'm
I
thinking-
did- Huh?
I must be thinking of all the middle ones that they made when they
Yeah,
just
maybe.
churned them out, and it had a very distinctive growl that I just felt was missing. Yeah.
But yeah, it was driving me nuts that he was standing up in 4,000 feet of water. And I thought, okay, maybe there's like a thing there, a ledge.
A big rock.
A sandbar. A sandbar.
Yeah, because he's like 165 feet tall. Come on, guys.
Annie, what's your experience with Godzilla?
I saw the other one on Netflix, Godzilla. It was just Godzilla, I think.
Not the Matthew Broderick one.
No, it came out a couple of years ago, maybe.
The one with the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver.
The
Yes.
one.
There was
Is
one
that-
with him,
Godzilla
versus King
Oh, yeah,
Kong
That's
too.
her, right? Yes, with the son, and that was the wife. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I was like trying to figure out who she was, but yes, that's her. Yeah, so I had seen that one a while back, but not really the old ones, maybe when I was a kid, but I wouldn't remember any of them.
Amy doesn't remember the movie she saw last week.
Yeah.
Last night.
That's not.
So I didn't know they were on Max because I was looking for them, so I'll try to go back and catch.
Yeah, 1954 is the one you want to say.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wouldn't watch that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to catch that. Couple of things like I know we all talked about like the movie and the special effects and stuff, but is there more? Like, is it a commentary on Japan and the government and and the environment and how, we mess up the environment and stuff like that, the radiation, the fallout from World War II. So I don't know if that was a
think it
message.
also, I think it also it's a little hopeful at the end, if that's what I mean. I mean, it's Japan is now gonna move forward, kind of thing.
Right. So, there's a lot of that probably. I don't know if there was a message from the director about it. So, one of the things I found, pretty silly, like Frank said, like why she just pushed him out and didn't
Save
go
herself.
into that, alley. But you knew that she was gonna come back, obviously. The other thing was like, how did he get his house so built up and all the other houses around him were still like in shambles? Like,
Pure Japanese gumption.
yeah, that was
Hard
just
worker.
right. And yeah, I enjoyed it. It wasn't homework for me, so it was fine. Although Danny fell asleep after the first hour, I think. So I guess he didn't really care for it too much. But I would give it a 3. And
It's definitely a little long for a Godzilla movie, for sure.
Yeah.
yeah, I'd go back and watch the original now. So,
And that's only 90 minutes.
See, I know.
Yeah.
Yes, and Amy, I did take parts from the original movie to put in our video. Yeah.
Oh yeah, the woman screaming and then them all running and just seeing the feet. I was like, ah, they stole that. One thing Annie, you reminded me of when you mentioned Japan was that people have said, again, from reading the trivia, that the American version of Godzilla movies are much more monster movies, but the Japanese look at Godzilla as half monster, half god. And then I was like, oh my God, his name is Godzilla. That makes sense.
Godzilla.
So he's not quite the destructive monster that he is in American movies.
Yeah, but and I was expecting that more, but he was like pure evil here. All he was doing was just stomping around. Because in the latest batch that came out in the last decade, he was kind of made into like the good guy. And I guess that's part of what I wasn't expecting too. I thought it was going to kind of hold him in reverence, and instead it was like a bad shark movie, just like killing anything that moved.
right. So because in the other one I saw, he fought against the 2 mutant, insects, and he saved Tokyo. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think is that the ride at Universal? Is it King Kong versus Godzilla?
That was one of them. There was like Rise of the Joel. Help me out here. It was like all the monsters coming up or something.
The only
we were like in the car and the movie was going on around us. It was
that was just King Kong when we did it.
King Kong.
It was just King Kong. So based off Peter Jackson and King Kong. So
No. In the last decade, though, there has been a resurgence of Godzilla movies. I think
yes,
American made.
yeah, they're American made movies from legendary films.
And one of them was Godzilla versus King Kong, and another one
Yes.
was just something else. I don't know
You,
what.
you had okay, so those movies in relative order would be, or in let's say chronological order would be Kong Skull Island, Godzilla, Godzilla King of the Monsters, Godzilla versus King Kong, and then the newest one, which I haven't seen yet, is Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire. So,
I've seen like 3 of them. Okay.
and
Okay,
and there's a
Joel, you
TV
know,
series on Apple TV called Monarch: Legacy of Monsters that connects to all of that.
Okay.
okay, Joel, you know way too much about this.
I do, because I grew up with Godzilla.
I mean, yeah, that's definitely what I was gonna say too, is if you don't grow up with stuff like this, I think
Yeah.
that's a big part of it.
Yes.
Yeah, that's I said at the beginning. I really don't have that nostalgia factor for the character.
Yeah.
Right.
So Joel,
Yeah.
I saw the trailer for um, Godzilla minus one minus color,
Yes.
and they purposely went in and recalibrated frame by frame, make sure the sharps were sharps and the blacks were black and all of that.
Yes.
And just watching the trailer, it looks amazing and it feels right. It's like that's the Godzilla nostalgia factor right there. Seeing it in black and white, even just in the trailer, made it seem like this movie was made in the 50s. And so it actually gave it a bit of depth that maybe was missing in the color version.
It's very possible. I not having seen the minus color version yet, because it's not streaming anywhere. I can only make those same suppositions that it would be a little bit more powerful in black and white, because the first 2 movies in the series were in black and white. So
And you saw the trailer though, right?
yeah. I mean, it looks
Yeah, it looks amazing.
feels, yeah, really, really good. And I think that might be part of why, I think the effects in the film are really well done, especially on the budget they had. But I think part of the reason why they may have also won the Special Effects Academy Award was because of the black and white version, and just how it looks, that way. So
And it almost made the special effects look better because the color in some way made it look a little more artificial when in the black and white version it looked more real. Does that make
yeah,
sense?
you're stripping it of that artificiality,
Right, because the color is obviously computer generated.
Yeah.
So the black and white just looked real. All right, so what did you think of minus one?
I hated it.
No.
No.
Joel doesn't hate
Obviously,
anything.
you're a big fan of Godzilla. Is this the number 2 Godzilla movie for you too?
It is right after the first one, I would put
Oh
it.
wow.
I think Joel compiled that list you read, Amy.
Seriously.
Well, I actually, I grew up with Godzilla, watching him on the 4:30 movie on ABC when they'd have Godzilla week. And
That's such a funny statement to me. I'm picturing you holding hands, going to play baseball together because you grew up with them.
I did. There was a toy line back in the 70s called the Shogun Warriors, and they were like big, plastic robot-y things, but they made a Godzilla to go with them, and his fist would shoot off of his arm, and you could pull a lever on the back of his head and his tongue would go nah. And it was one of my favorite toys as a kid.
He was 15 at the time.
I was 15 at the time. And while I can never remember exactly what the first movie I ever saw in the movie theaters was, but one of the options would have been Godzilla versus Megalon. I just, I've enjoyed Godzilla as a kid. As I grew older, I began to appreciate him in different ways. When I went to film school, my sophomore year, we had to take a class in international cinema, and the professor who normally taught it was on sabbatical. So they brought in this substitute professor for for a couple of years, and his expertise was Japanese film. And he said right off the bat, day one, we are not discussing Godzilla.
Ah,
That's funny. I thought
uh,
you were going to say, because it was so cheap to rent the film, he showed it.
right. Admittedly, he did discuss Godzilla with us on occasion, kind of off the record stuff, because the first film is an important piece of Japanese cinema because
Yeah.
it is a reaction to World War II. And
Right.
while we Americans were brought up with, because when the film was brought here, they re-edited it. They shot new footage with Raymond Burr as reporter Steve Martin, and Americanized it. And the American version isn't as great as the Japanese version is, but it's still a fun film. As the series progresses, they get a lot sillier. Um,
Wait a minute. You could actually watch the Japanese version without Raymond Burr in it?
Yeah, Criterion put out a special collector's edition of the first film before they put out a box set of the entire Showa era, which is everything up till about 1980.
I feel like the one I watched last night would have been the original. First of all, it did say Criterion Collection on it, and I don't remember seeing any white names or people.
Yeah, if you didn't see Raymond Burr in the movie, you were watching the Japanese version.
Okay.
Is not in the Japanese version. In fact, Raymond Burr's contribution to that original film is so indelible to the American public that when Toho Studios essentially rebooted Godzilla in the early 80s with what they called Return of Godzilla, and when it came to America, they brought back Raymond Burr, reshot new footage, and
Wow.
called it Godzilla 1984. So,
And he was in his 70s by then.
yeah, he was much, much older. But as I said, the series, as it goes, it moves from black and white into color after the third film, and they keep adding more and more monsters, and it gets more ridiculous, and it gets silly, and there's aliens, and it's all
Well,
over.
I certainly remember Mothra
Yeah, well,
for
but
sure, and the little Japanese girl singing.
yes, and
This was
Mothra.
the 430 movie.
Yeah,
On 430
we also have
movie.
to realize Mothra started as its own series as well. Mothra and then Rodan had their own movies
Oh,
before they were
yeah.
sucked into, the Godzilla series.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
What about
Wow.
Mechagodzilla?
Mechagodzilla was not his own series. He had his own, he's part of this, just like, yeah. Anyway,
Bizarro.
yeah.
Yeah.
To go back to this particular movie that we're talking about, I really enjoyed it. It's definitely a throwback to that first film. It gets itself away from the pitfalls of the recent Hollywood versions. The Hollywood versions, for the most part, the movies have had very lackluster character development. You're not there for the humans. You're there to watch Godzilla, stomp all over San Francisco or whatever city they've moved it to. And even that, like, I've been watching those with Duncan, and he's like, Godzilla's like in 10 minutes of this 2.5 hour movie. What's the point? But Godzilla -1, he's in it a lot more. And
And can you look up how much screen time Godzilla has in Godzilla -1?
I certainly can.
there's somewhere online, there's a chart that tells you how much screen time Godzilla has.
Oh, goodness. Of course there is. Was Chaz involved with that?
Spreadsheets.
Yeah, spreadsheets. As much as there were silly things and cliche bits with the human characters, I found them more fascinating. They had more of an interesting story because of their war background. And I think that helps ground them a little bit with the ensuing chaos of this giant, lizard that's
Right.
wandering through the area.
Actually, when they were on the boat shooting at the mines, trying to find the mines, and the other soldier was in the back, at the first I thought, wow, they have a woman doing it. It's so progressive because he had that hairdo. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Nope.
I thought it was a woman.
But as I said, it is a bit slow in parts. There are some cliche bits and some weird bits, but on the whole, it works really well, both as a piece of entertainment, as a piece of Godzilla lore, and another uh, answer to, or the word I'm looking for, just a reflection of how the Japanese felt coming out of World War II with the
Right.
devastation that was caused by the two
By
nuclear,
Godzilla.
yeah, and by Godzilla. So
So Americans are Godzilla, is what you're saying.
pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
That's not to say that the American versions that have been running of late are fun movies. If you track the transition of the series over the years, yes, Godzilla goes from being this terrifying monster that the Japanese are afraid of to being, hey, Godzilla's here. He's going to save us from Monster X, who is,
Right.
oh, look, it's Godzuki or whatever.
And that's
That's
what I'm used to. That's what I was
Yes.
expecting more. And
Because
so that's
you-
why
Yeah, and that's exactly Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator.
Yes, he becomes the friendly.
First he was the bad guy, and then he was the friendly Godzilla.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that the American versions they almost immediately start from that vantage point. Yes, Godzilla at the beginning of that first new movie in 2014 is the terrifying monster, but he quickly winds up, helping to defend San Francisco from the Mutos, I think they're called. I don't remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, the spidery looking weird Cloverfield creatures. But anyway, I do recommend the movie. It was a lot of fun. It was very interesting. It was well made. I'm going to give it 3.25. So
Yeah, and it's like in The Last Samurai, it's really about like the Japanese culture with the kamikaze pilots and everything, and honor, and how he went back and people were like annoyed that he was still alive.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that one
yeah.
woman.
Yeah. The neighbor, but even she came about once the kid was there, and she realized that the kid may not have a mother anymore, may not, the father's
Right.
leaving because the father is leaving to
Hold on,
reclaim.
that part bothered me too. This little 2-year-old girl is calling him daddy, and he keeps referring to her as like this. She's just some girl that lives in my house. He
Right.
was so cold-hearted.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, it was, yeah, it's cold-hearted, but it's also interesting because he's trying to reconcile the fact that this really is not his daughter. He doesn't know who the hell she is,
Right,
but
but
he's
at the
becoming
same
attached.
time, he doesn't want a connection.
Yeah, because he
He
knows
doesn't feel he deserves it because
doesn't
he's still
deserve
got
it.
guilt over
not
Yeah.
dying.
not dying.
And then not shooting as well.
Yeah.
Yes,
He
that was
froze
big
during.
in
I mean,
it.
I can't blame him for that though. If Godzilla was right next to me, I'd probably freeze too.
Yeah.
And
12 minutes.
12
12
minutes.
minutes. Best
The,
12 minutes in a 2-hour movie.
Hour and 5-minute movie. He's in 12 minutes.
According to somebody on Twitter, he spends approximately 12 minutes. And something else I just saw said Toho movies. Wait, let me just back up. I just saw it, but here, most Toho movies, the average is 15 to 20 minutes.
So this is less.
Yeah.
That's less than the Toho movies.
Right. So
And
Duncan,
yeah, it opened to 100% on Tomatoes.
So, and how
Oh.
many of you knew that ejection seat was coming?
I didn't, and I'll tell you why, because I had said to you guys in the text, I had read you better bring tissues. And I thought, okay, I actually thought it was going to be we're going to fall in love with Godzilla. He's going to be all pathetic, kind of like King Kong was in the original, which I just saw for my first time last month. And he was all sad. So I
Yeah.
thought we were going to cry for Godzilla.
Yeah.
So then when he crashed, I was like, okay, I guess that's why it was supposed to be so.
I agree with you 100%. And I have to give credit to Danielle. She guessed it before I did. But when they said specifically, and there's one more thing, and then they cut the scene, I was like, hold on. Something. And then she said, I bet she's pointing to an ejection seat. And I was like, oh my God, yeah, you're probably right. And
Yeah. And I love that they became so friendly. That was cute. It was sweet.
him and the mechanic.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was no Bob. Come on. All right, so that's it for us. I am interested to see the Raymond Burr version again. I Don't know when was the last time I saw it. But I think I would also watch the minus color. Because in the trailer, Godzilla actually looks meaner somehow.
Wow.
So Godzilla Minus One is available on Netflix, or you can rent it on Fandango at home for $5.99. And no library this time, as Joel pointed out. It's not on DVD in America yet.
Right.
Oh, sorry.
And you can rent the black and white version for $5.99 too.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Streaming on Netflix in a couple of weeks.
Oh,
yeah. Who is? Oh, okay.
The minus color will be on Netflix.
Next week, Amy chose. What's up, Doc?
Uh-huh.
Man.
It's
from
in your
1972.
collection.
What?
I see it's in your collection.
No,
Barbara.
got it from the library,
Oh,
Oh,
St. Petersburg Library. Which is our first Barbara Streisand movie, and I did not recommend it. That's weird.
Yeah.
So does that mean you don't
You,
recommend
Frank.
it, or you're not
I
going
do recommend it. Actually, well, we'll hear next week, but I think this is actually one of her better movies. It's not available on the usual subscription services. You could rent it from Prime for $3.69, or you could buy the DVD for $8.73. You like it, you can have it. Or, as I did, borrow it from the library. I actually do have it, but it's on DVD, and some of my friends need a DVD version to watch the movie. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's on DVD like square and not widescreen? What?
No, I can't copy a Blu-ray. I can copy
You know, we're still recording.
Oh.
Yeah. Is the FBI listening?
no
Probably.
one's watching at this
No,
point.
Yeah, that is very true.
even the FBI stopped monitoring.
I am Frank Gaffney. Go watch a movie.
And also with you.
Rawr.
Wait, hang on. I can't find the button.